Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host. I'm a filmmaker on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode, I pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on streaming. I pick a favorite film from that topic and battle it out against a guest to decide which film would become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 2. Hello guys, welcome back to part 2 of the podcast where we are talking monster / kaiju films. I've been wanting to do this kind of type of episode for a while, so it's finally happening. This is the part of the show, as you may already know, where I have a look at your Instagram responses from the previous episode, and that previous episode was on Robert Pattinson films. So Sam from Warner vs. Board, who's been on the show a few times, went with Goblet of Fire with a laughing emoji. Andrew from the Revisionist Almanac podcast went with Good Time, always a tongue twister, that one. The Movie Boners, Jake, went with The Twilight Saga, barely joking but partly serious. Reshoot podcast went with The Lighthouse. Anton Kinderlove went with The Batman. Mr. Wyseer, who is on the Movie Bonus podcast, went with The Lighthouse. And I think that's it. Yeah. Some great choices there. Parker, I am intrigued. What is your choice for Robert Pattinson films?
I have not seen a lot of Robert Pattinson films.
You can say Twilight if you want.
I've never seen the Twilight movies.
Oh, really? Okay, neither have I. But
It's a series that I hope I don't have to see for a very long time unless somebody pays me a lot of money to cover it on the show.
Yeah, sure, yeah. You want it to burn in hell. Is that right? Same with me.
Yeah, they're not good. Can we just accept them? They're not good.
No.
The Batman. I mean, the Batman is kind of fresh in my mind when it comes to Robert Pattinson. I've probably only seen a couple of his movies, and I don't even remember what the other ones were. But his version of Bruce Wayne / Batman is really intriguing, and I'm very excited to see kind of how he grows with it as we get more movies down the road. But I'm also really intrigued to dive more into his more serious work. I know, like, I've not seen Good Times, but I have seen Uncut Gems, which is done by the same guys. So I'm intrigued to go back and watch Good Times. The Lighthouse is another one I'd love to check out because I know his performance in that is very unhinged and very good. So yeah, I don't have a lot of knowledge of his movies, so the Batman is kind of the only one that's stuck in my mind.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I do love the Batman. We did a spoiler special back in the day when that came out. Yeah, I really love it. I don't know. I'm still undecided, frankly. I need to see it more times whether like it is my favorite over The Dark Knight.
Oh no, it's not that. It's not that for me. The Dark Knight's like top 3 for me all time. So
I said a bad word, people. Okay.
How dare you?
Yeah, but I'm seeing online though, like more people are like going against The Dark Knight more. Like,
yes. Why?
Yeah.
What's happening? I don't know. Like this. This is my least favorite thing about social media and being on like film Twitter, which I'm still calling it Twitter. I don't care what it actually is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm seeing so much like negativity towards these movies that have been praised for so long. Like I'm always gonna be a huge Dark Knight fan. I think it's a fantastically made movie.
Now all of a sudden, like people are like, nah, just the Joker was good in it. The rest of it is pretty standard. I'm like, really? Are you sure?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, if they took the Joker out, then it wouldn't be a good movie. And I'm like, but the Joker's kind of the point of the movie. Like, he is your antagonist. So of course it's not going to work as well if you took the Joker out. He's in the movie for a reason.
Yeah,
like, I don't like that argument at all.
No.
Give me a legitimate reason why you don't like it. You don't like Christian Bale's Batman. You don't like the Joker. You don't like the way Gotham City's portrayed by Christopher Nolan because it is not like Tim Burton's Gothic feel or Joel Schumacher's very colorful Gothic feel. I could see certain complaints about The Dark Knight today, but it's one of those things where just out of the woodworks, like people who don't The Shining was never good.
Yeah, like, okay.
Excuse me? Okay.
Right.
Please explain, because I need to hear it.
Yeah, I feel like The Dark Knight is kind of similar in a way to monster films because structurally, the fact that the Joker's only in it for like 20 minutes, and I feel like the best monster films are where the monster isn't in the film that much, so
absolutely
there's a similarity there, bringing it back to monster movies. Segue, people. Parker, it is your turn. What is your monster/kaiju film for you?
Mine is the 2013 Guillermo del Toro helmed Pacific Rim.
Nice. Were there any other films in contention for you?
So you mentioned it in the last episode, but Jurassic Park was my first pick, and I felt
you can say it. You wanted to let me win. That's fine. I can accept that.
That in a way, I guess we could say that. No, I wanted more of a competition because we both agree that Jurassic Park probably was going to run away with it, as good as the host is, but. You originally picked Pacific Rim.
I did, yeah.
And then you chose the host, and I took your pick because I still really wanted to talk about Pacific Rim because I've talked about Jurassic Park a lot in my life. I've done an episode myself on it, and it's always brought up. It's just a fantastic movie. Yeah. Pacific Rim, I have never talked about on a podcast, so I definitely wanted to dive back in because it's a movie I very much enjoy.
Yeah. We have done a dinosaur films episode, and for some reason we didn't pick Jurassic Park.
I think it's the easiest one. It's one of those things where I feel I wouldn't want to pick Jurassic Park.
We didn't want to go into the obviousness, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I would have picked I would probably picked something from the franchise because I think a lot of people I would have been like The Lost World.
Yeah, we went with The Lost
World.
Don't
like The Lost World, and it drives me nuts because that movie's so much fun.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, we went with that. Yeah.
It's not as good, but I understand.
Yeah. So what happens in Pacific Rim?
So, as IMDb would explain, is as a war between humankind and monstrous sea monsters wages on, a former pilot and a trainee are paired up to drive a seemingly obsolete special weapon in a desperate effort to save the world from the apocalypse. Wow. Nice. What a description.
Yeah, and as I kind of said in part one, I feel like this film was definitely the movie that kind of brought back big monster films, and certainly Guillermo del Toro is the type of director that a filmmaker that's seen a lot of cinema. He knows his shit, when it comes to films, and I guess he was just like, what, there's a gap in the market here. These monster movies of the 50s and 60s used to be insanely popular, and I imagine he watched a lot of them as a kid, and you can see a lot of anime influences in this film for sure. I'm kind of getting into more of anime stuff now. We did an anime episode earlier on this year, which I loved. Yeah, and you can see a lot of certainly the influences on those older films. Like the other day I had on TV, there was this film called It Came From Beneath the Sea from 1955. Great titles in those days. So good. And it was just this Ray Harryhausen giant octopus film in black and white. And you literally hardly ever see the octopus. You see it for 2 shots, that's it. But it's kind of goofy and fun. So when I saw this for the first time, weirdly, it wasn't in a big screen. It wasn't showing in one of the premiere screens at the time. I'm not sure probably a Marvel film or something that held those bigger screens when it came out. But when I saw it, I really loved it. I just loved how huge these monsters and the Jaegers felt. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So Guillermo del Toro is a massive Godzilla fan. As you stated, he grew up just watching cinema of all years, from the very beginning to present day. And Godzilla he's a huge Godzilla fan. So this was his Godzilla. And the funny thing is that I've read that he actually was asked to direct Godzilla 2014.
Oh, wow.
But because he was in production for this movie, he wasn't able to do it.
Right.
But I would kill for a Guillermo del Toro Godzilla movie down the road.
Yeah. I imagine he was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing, is we got this kind of original look at at a kaiju film because, for one, they're called kaijus in this movie.
Yeah.
They are so vastly different from each other, like the way that they all look and the colors of them, and then them, have humanity having to figure out how to combat these things. And so they make robots that are just the same size, but it's not even just the fact that they make robots. There's this also intricate science involved in how these Jaegers, as they are called, work. And I think that's what Guillermo del Toro does so well, is he is so good at not making things basic. He makes things not complicated, but he puts a lot of science behind what he's doing. Maybe if the science isn't actually real, but something that kind of been like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like, how is one person going to control this 150 foot tall robot, or two people or whatever? Just the way that he was able to incorporate the whole bridging factor and all that. And I think that was just really cool. I think the funny thing is, it really doesn't feel like a Guillermo del Toro movie until you get to certain aspects of the movie where you're like, oh, okay, like the creature designs and some of the people they puts in his movies.
Rob Perlman.
Yeah.
When he turns up, you're like, oh yeah, it's a Del Toro film. Of course.
So, but I think it's a lot of fun to see these type of directors who, he had done Hellboy and Hellboy 2, I think, before this came out, and he, Blade 2, and then all of his Mexican films that he had done that are very spooky or
horror infused,
creature horror infused, Pan's Labyrinth and stuff like that. For him to get the reins to something of this size, because this was not a cheap movie to make. No. Based on all the effects work that was done. But I really like seeing directors doing something out of their wheelhouse. We were just talking about The Dark Knight. I think that was something that was really cool to see Chris Nolan, hop into Batman. At that time when he jumped into Batman Begins, he wasn't that well known as of a director. And to kind of give him the reins to this huge franchise that kind of been dormant since 1997 when Batman and Robin came out, and to see what he could do with this iconic character. Yeah. I think that's kind of what we see with Del Toro. And, he's not doing a Godzilla movie. He's not doing a well-known kaiju movie, but he's doing something in the same vein. And I think he plays pretty well with it.
I mean, he didn't put nipples on the Jaegers, so, it's fine. You can't go wrong there, then.
You can't go wrong, no.
Yeah. So directing then, I love the opening fight with Gypsy Danger and a kaiju in the ocean. I liked how there was like as much emphasis on how like the water was interacting with these giants, as well as like Gypsy Danger and the kaiju fighting each other. Like the stormy ocean is as ever present with every blow. Sometimes I did struggle in small moments with what exactly was going on in terms of where everyone was, etc. But on the whole, I thought the action was pretty clear. I just loved how huge like the action felt as well. I mean, throughout the whole film, really, everything felt huge with like a really detailed sound design as well to give like Gypsy Danger a lot of depth and power to his moves. And I loved just how thoughtful the editing was, like, and how natural it felt when they were stitching together like the big headshots of the two giants fighting each other, and the others shots with the pilots in the cockpits. I thought that was really well done, and I love the little like detail of seeing a kaiju tooth like break through the hull. It just gave the film like an added perspective in terms of scale in that scene, especially. So I feel like for their first fight for the film, like it really packs a punch for me.
Yeah, I got to agree, because it, since this episode is stemmed off of Godzilla x Kong, I think it would be right to compare this opening scene. I mean, the way that all the fights play out in this movie are very similar, but very different, because you see different types of Jaegers fighting different kinds of kaijus, even with the information you get later on where they're all the same. But this opening fight, they look like a 150 foot tall robot fighting a 150 foot long kaiju. Like, it's very slow. The punches are slow because that's how it would work.
Yeah.
When you watch Godzilla x Kong, it's like they took normal humans or normal things and just blew them up.
Right. Yeah.
But they're still punching and hitting really quickly.
Oh, really?
And things move a lot faster, which, like I said before, I really enjoyed the movie, so I didn't care. But this felt more cohesive and made more sense to the environment.
You felt the scale, you know?
Yeah. Like, these are massive things fighting each other. And I love everything about this. I love the relationship between the brothers. I love the colors. The colors are fantastic. Like the very neon look and all that. And I really enjoy the whole aftermath too. So when after everything happens, you have like the father and son walking. The Jaeger comes out of the shadows, like comes out of the mist and collapses.
Oh yeah.
Visually stunning. I loved everything about it. It's just like this massive creature, and of course they don't know what it is at first, and then it collapses, and you're just like, that is a great opening. Yeah. You know, we get what do you think of the whole opening where they explain everything that's going on, kind of like a narration type thing? Are you a fan of that in movies?
If it's done well, then yeah, but if it's not, no. I think this one does it quite well, and it definitely gives the film like a global feel. It gives the film a lot of texture, that this, the world is at stake here and not just the Western world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the opening, as you say, when the kaiju kind of falls on the beach, that's great because like the camera just stays on ground level, and I think for the most part the film does that with a lot of the fight scenes. Like, it keeps it fairly at a high angle, kind of low angle, sorry. So you can capture the scale, but obviously within that moment, like, they keep it so low to human level that in that moment when it's falling, it just feels ginormous.
Yeah. And then it just, every other fight we get later on is just really kind of has that same impact. Yeah. And getting to see different Jaegers fighting, I think, was really cool too. We're not just seeing Gypsy Danger fight, we're seeing all these other ones fight, and how different they are from each other. I
loved the Hong Kong fight scene, and there's some great like ideas here from Guillermo del Toro, but I feel like the Chinese and the Russian Jaegers only get a few licks in before they get utterly ripped apart by the kaijus. But they do get some cool moves in there. Like the Chinese one, like grabs the kaiju and jumps up and twists its legs upside down, and then comes back down and throws the kaiju over its head, which was pretty cool and kind of reflects this kind of Chinese martial arts style. And like the Russian one is just like a brute force Jaeger and just has this like extending punch thing. But I loved it when like the Russian one gets ripped apart, and like the Aussies are running in the background trying to help and trying to save them. So your focus is on them running towards the Russians, but like the other leatherback kaiju kind of like jumps out of the water out of nowhere and utterly destroys the Russians. Oh well. So that was cool. That was a cool misdirect. But I also loved the little bit when the other kaiju and the Aussie Jaeger are like facing off moments later, and like the kaiju just in the background just like throws away the head of the Chinese Jaeger like it was nothing. I found that was quite funny, actually.
Yeah, it just showed that like, do we even have a chance? Because like Gypsy Danger, I mean, as it gets pretty messed up in both instances of this movie. Like in the beginning, it gets torn apart. The whole it's kind of setting up everything, and then later on in the film, but it stands up to a lot of stuff. And then you have these other countries' Jaegers just fighting these. Like, they're not even the big ones. They're just kaijus. They're just like the normal kaijus that you're fighting all the time, and they're just getting torn to shreds. And you're like, they were getting built up too.
Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of annoying.
Which I always thought was hilarious when they build up these like, that's those are the Russian pilots, and they're like, there's just
3-armed Chinese one.
Yeah, and like, this massive Russian guy with the flat top, and you're
really bulky.
You're like, oh boy, he's gonna, and he does nothing.
Yeah, but I feel like you definitely get like the Guillermo del Toro designs there. They feel very Del Toro, especially that Russian one, just like really bulky, It felt like the Doctor character in Hellboy 2. Where
yes.
Yeah, that kind of character a little bit there. But yeah, it's just a shame that they don't really get much to do. Like, they get a few licks and then they're dead, pretty much. And it's just like, oh, that's a shame.
They're cannon fodder. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think definitely my favorite scene is when Gypsy Danger turns up in Hong Kong and gets involved. And it kind of starts off, well, to start off with, it just looks great. And you have all these neon lights of Hong Kong in the rain at night. And it's just this perfect setting for any movie, really. And I love the fact that Guillermo del Toro is just having fun with the fight scenes and the fighting styles. It's almost like Gypsy Danger is in a bar fight from an old Western or something. Like, there's no fancy choreography here. There's just pretty much standard punches here. But because it's a giant Jaeger and a giant glow-in-the-dark kaiju, basic punches look awesome. But this, like, bar fight style really comes through where, like, Gypsy is just, like, holds the kaiju's head at one point in one hand, and the other hand is just repeatedly punching him in the head with the other arm. That was just really cool. Like, later he picks up a load of shipping containers in both hands, upsetting some Amazon customers, and just uses them like knuckle dusters.
Is that the one where that's the scene where he drags the ship, right?
Yeah.
Which is my favorite.
I mean,
I love it.
What's not to like about that?
That's so good.
Uses it as a baseball bat, That's so cool. And again, like, a little bit of light humor as well when, like, I think Gypsy Danger gets thrown into a building and you just get, like, these these desk balls. It just knocks it a little bit. That's a great little joke there.
The little fist goes through and, like, barely touches him. Yeah.
I feel like this is in an era of the early 2010s where, like, a lot of blockbuster cinema was just about destruction. You had Man of Steel and Star Trek Into Darkness, where that was the appeal of those films to a certain extent, was just huge destruction. And yes, you have that with this, but I feel like it's done really well. It's really focused on the fights, whereas in those other films, for me personally, it's more how many buildings can we destroy.
Right.
Do you spend all of your waking moments watching reality TV? Well, you're in good company. I'm Will.
And I'm Marissa. And we're the hosts of Cheers to Chaos Reality TV and Cocktails, a new weekly podcast that covers the ever so entertaining and cringy world of reality television.
Each week, we'll be raising our glasses and diving into the latest drama and chaos from our favorite reality TV shows.
From 90 Day Fiancé to The Bachelor, we've got all your reality favorites covered.
So grab a drink and join us as we clink our glasses to the hilarious and delightful train wrecks of reality TV.
Subscribe now to Cheers to Chaos Reality TV and Cocktails on your favorite podcast platform.
I think, and that's usually some people's complaints, I think, with kaiju movies, period. I think, you think of, like, Godzilla, as a pretty major player in that, as most of the time when he's fighting another kaiju, it's in a city. But it's like sometimes just how it is, because that's kind of the goal of that other kaiju, is to cause as much destruction as possible. And, we see it in this Hong Kong scene where Gypsy Danger shows up and, Gypsy Danger is causing as much destruction to the city as the kaiju, but that's kind of how it works. Like, that's the best, your best possible way of getting rid of this thing and trying to lure it out back into sea so that you don't cause any more destruction. So, yeah, I think it really shows the deep love that Del Toro has for this genre and what it really means to him, and how much we really need him to do a Godzilla movie.
Yes, definitely. Have you got any favorite moments from that Hong Kong fight for you? I
mean, the ship scene. I love that scene has been burned into my brain since I saw this movie for the first time back in 2013. Of Gypsy Danger showing up in that slow walk down the street with the ship just dragging behind it, and then it kind of like throws it out. It's kind of like a club or a sword or something in the way that they use it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, that whole fight is fantastic.
Yeah. And then he gets a sword out anyway.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, oh, he has a sword. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. We're going to add that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that'll always be one of my favorite shots of the entire movie. It's just that scene and the scene of Gypsy Danger coming out of the fog in the beginning after it is destroyed. I think it's just two shots that really just show how well Del Toro can shoot. Like, he could shoot pretty much anything.
Yeah, and I feel like there's great unpredictability here in the fights as well, because it's I was on about the kind of this sort of stereotypical Western bar brawl kind of fighting style, which is great, but like I kind of like it when they use the gadgets, you don't necessarily know when they're going to use it, and just it's kind of really great when he takes out, I think it's the leatherback one where they literally repeatedly plasma blast the guy in the chest over and over again. And it's a little corny, but when he says, let's check for a pulse, blast, and then no pulse. It's corny, but because it's just kind of really ridiculous and huge, I don't mind it so much. And even with the kaiju themselves, like, one of them gets the bottom half of its body sliced off, and yet it grows wings and like flies away, and and has grabs Gypsy Danger with it and gets to the upper atmosphere very quickly, I must say. But and then that's the reveal of the sword that cuts the kaiju open. So that was great too. So because you don't really know how the hell how Gypsy Danger is going to get out of that situation until the sword comes up, and then you have the whole thing of like, oh, he's falling to the ground, holy shit. I swear I don't know if you've started watching X-Men 97, the new animated show, but like there's a scene where Cyclops does that same thing where he just like uses his plasma beams to land.
Right.
Gypsy Danger does the exact same thing with the chest bit, they nicked that.
Yeah, I think the thing about this movie is that you're never expecting it to be a one-sided fight.
Yeah.
It is always like anytime any of the Jaegers go out to fight, there is a higher chance of them being killed than the kaiju actually getting killed. Because I think so, like Gypsy Danger is supposed to be like this top tier Jaeger. They're like the best to do it at in the beginning of the movie, and they get pretty manhandled by this kaiju. And then you have like the Australians who get kind of hyped up. They're like the best now. They had just killed a kaiju not that long before. So it's like you have these Jaegers that are like the best at what they do, but yet they'll go out and fight a kaiju, but they're never the same kaiju. So it's always them never knowing exactly what this kaiju is going to do. I think that's the thing with a lot of other kaiju movies. Is there's always like, oh, we've seen this creature before. We know its weaknesses. We can figure out that it's, sustainable to this, or it can't do this, or hit it there and it'll die quickly. Like these are every time they're fighting one, like they all have their own categories, of kaiju, but they're always made just different enough where they can never figure out exactly what they have to do to kill them. So they never have the upper hand.
Yeah. I mean, we complained a little bit that, the Russian and the Chinese Jaegers like die quickly, but I think if you kind of don't have something like that, then, as you say, like it brings a lot of jeopardy to like Gypsy Danger. I'm like, oh shit, is Riley and Mako going to survive this inside Gypsy Danger? Whereas these two we're told very experienced Jaegers kind of die really quickly. So yeah, the Jaegers and the kaiju are very evenly matched throughout. You're never really sure. Well, you kind of are a little bit, but there's an ounce of doubt there that main characters are not going to get out alive in terms of what we see with the action. But I did like the final fight. It has more of an emphasis on the cockpits than the kaiju fights, which I kind of liked. Like Gypsy Danger basically takes out like two of the kaijus pretty quickly with this giant sword.
And one arm.
Yeah, which is pretty cool, but it was very quick. Then just gives the Category 5 kaiju like a big hug as they fall through the rift. But in the cockpits, like it feels so much more intense. Like there are sparks going everywhere, like water bursts through the cracks. So it feels like a nice change up of intensity from the outside to the characters we're following emotionally on the inside of these dangerous machines. So it's just, it's the details as ever in the Guillermo del Toro films that make the films worthwhile for me. There's always so much detail there in the production design. And yeah, it just feels like there's so much more going on the inside and the outside kind of thing. I guess it's just kind of highlighted a little bit because they are underwater. Environmentally, there's not much there, I guess. But, I feel like the film didn't feel like it was under pressure that they needed to top the Hong Kong scene. It felt different enough that it worked enough for me.
I definitely agree with that.
Directing score for me then for Pacific Rim, I'm not going to lie, this is not like one of my favorite Del Toro films, but as kaiju monster films go, this is just really fun and has a lot of rewatch value, and production design as well, like so detailed, as we've both said. So I'll go like an 8.5 for me. How about you, sir?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It, like I said before, sometimes this movie does not feel like a Del Toro movie, and I don't know if I should fault him on that, or it's just because it's something that is vastly different than what we've seen from Del Toro before. There are, I don't even know where to like nitpick this movie, because production wise, it looks gorgeous. The visual effects are done really well, and I think Del Toro directs it to such a degree that you're just kind of amazed. You're just expecting it to be somebody else's name in the credits when it pops up. But
yeah,
he really does so well with something that we just had never seen before from him. I think the most visual effects you probably had seen from Del Toro before was the Hellboy series, but it wasn't at such a grand, stage as Pacific Rim. Like this is a massive kaiju movie. I think it was mostly probably just the direction of his actors, and I know we're going to talk about the performances of this cast a little bit later. But I think maybe the where I'll knock him is just kind of the direction he gave the actors.
Charlie Hunnam, act please. Yeah,
yeah. I didn't want to spoil my thoughts, but yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I think it's a fairly general opinion of the poor guy, but screenplay first though. You mentioned it briefly, but I love the opening backstory scene, like just simply because like the first time you see a kaiju, it destroys the Golden Gate Bridge right from the off. Right off the bat, which I find a tad funny because like so many monster films destroy that bridge.
The next year, Godzilla 2014, he destroys the Golden Gate Bridge.
So it feels like a blatant joke for me that Del Toro is implementing right off the bat. So I also liked it because of the mix of styles that Del Toro goes for in explaining the history of this world. Like you have a little like black and white scene explaining that one pilot can't handle piloting a Jaeger on their own, and it's kind of fuzzy a little from like an old 60s documentary kind of thing. There's also shots of people like they're straight out of a modern day documentary in a warehouse. I loved the advert showing kaiju trainers. That was funny. It was a great overall kind of showing this film is going to have like a global feel and not just America saves the world. No offense.
Are you a baseball fan? Do you watch movies, TV, or are you curious about the lives of professional baseball players or people in the entertainment industry? Then Peanuts, Popcorn, and Cracker Jacks is the podcast for you. Hosted by Jeff Santo, a writer-director and son of a Hall of Fame Chicago Cubs baseball player, this podcast comes out every other Thursday with extraordinary guest interviews and surprise Cracker Jack guests. It's fun, it's emotional, it's Peanuts, Popcorn, and Cracker Jacks.
No offense taken. For me, I think it's I do like the fact that he puts this kind of at a global scale. Like he puts this screenplay at a global scale, as you just said. Like it's not just focusing on, because primary focus is like U.S. military, U.S. this, U.S. that. It's like a whole thing. Everybody is involved in this fight, and he does so well at mixing in kind of all stakes. You have the beginning. And like kind of putting our hopes up that this is kind of our savior here, this Gypsy Danger, the best of the best, doing what it does, and it immediately gets taken out, and you're like, the hope just kind of dives into the toilet. I do like seeing that training montage in the beginning where it kind of shows you the history of this. It's not just, I love that it's not just like a title scroll of like, this is this is these are kaijus, these are Jaegers, they fight each other. No, they are showing you kind of the history of what's going on. And I thought that was really well done. I think even including some of the character developments, like Mako's kind of story and how she becomes a pilot, I thought was really well done, because in my opinion, I think she's the best character in this movie. And I really like the fact that it's like, it's not just, this character's dead, so now this guy needs to find another co-pilot, so we're just going to find him one, and then we're just going to fight. No, there has to be some sort of like, stake to get to that point. And I think Del Toro did that pretty well. And then the final fight, it's not just a typical superhero ending where it's hero versus villain that is like the hero with same powers, fighting, punching each other, doing that, or it's just another
round one.
It's not just another kaiju Jaeger fight. Like this is like straight up, they had a plan, they enact this plan, they have like these scientist guys involved in the plan, they're the ones who came up with the whole thing. I think that the fact that we have so many people involved in this plan, I thought and seeing kind of the how it doesn't go very smoothly, and I think it's just very cohesively well done from beginning to end for me, with the exceptions of some of the characters.
I agreed with some of that. Like the drift storyline I found interesting, but I feel like they could have played on it a little bit more. And like the idea here is that it takes two people's brain power to pilot a Jaeger. You're in each other's minds. When one gets hurt, you both get hurt, kind of thing. So you have like Charlie Hunnam's character Riley coming back to the Jaeger program after his brother died, who he naturally drifted with. So the film makes it clear that Riley needs another partner to pilot Gypsy Danger again. Like the number one candidate is Mako, the one that's training all the cadets. But we don't really see any cadets really. But the problem is that like Idris Elba's character won't let her drift with Riley because he's very protective of her, and the only reason he finally agrees to let her drift with Riley is that their situation is getting desperate and Elba's character is dying. So there's a brilliant like memory sequence with Mako where she gets lost in this memory where Idris Elba like saves her as a child and almost destroys the Shatterdome, which I really like that scene actually. And all this is great, but my problem is that all this is done because it's trying to create tension about whether Mako will end up being Riley's drift partner. But my issue is that there is no other candidate but Mako. So you're just waiting for her to end up next to Riley in the head of Gypsy Danger. If there was like another character to rival Mako, I would find it more interesting. It's just that they go on about this over and over again, like, will she, won't she, for a while? And the answer is obviously she will drift with Riley. So, I like the whole idea of it, but I feel like, especially the scene where she's in the memory and could blow up the Shatterdome, but I feel like if there was another potential candidate that could drift with her, like more of a cocky, arrogant type character, then it would have worked a little bit better for me. I felt like it was just kind of dragging with that kind of story with Mako. I'm like, I think it's kind of obvious that she's going to end up next to him. Did you not feel that, or was that fine with you?
I think I guess I liked more the idea of what was going on with Mako. I think there are some elements that it probably just didn't work as well. She's a grown ass adult, and this guy is just like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, protecting her in a way. And I get it to a degree based on his situation. So yeah, I wish, I guess seeing a competitive, like, somebody who's going to be there to kind of fight her for that spot, I think would have been interesting. I think maybe if you had the same personality in some random recruit as the Australian son, who is just the tip, like, he's one of my least favorite, like, characters, because he's like a bully, like, oh yeah, you're a has-been, I'm the best guy, like, around here. And you're just like, who are you? Who talks like that? And it's like, if you had that same personality in a recruit to kind of go head to head with Mako, I think that would have been,
you got two of the same characters. That's your problem, I guess.
I think it would have been and so I can definitely agree. I think it would have made it more interesting to see, like, if she fails and then they had somebody else go in there and be with Riley, and that doesn't work out, and then it has to be Mako. Like, Mako has to come in and be that kind of savior. Like, she comes in as like, okay, this is a better link, we can fight this, and then go do that, instead of having kind of that always reliving that memory. Because I think it happens a little too much. I think it's like 2 or 3 times we see that memory of her as a child, but then you finally get to see that the reason why it lives in her head is because Idris Elba's character saved her.
Yeah, it's not particularly subtle.
No.
That Elba has something to do with Mako. But I guess maybe the extra character to make this film better would be, I don't think it necessarily needs to be, an antagonistic character like the younger Australian guy. Like, it could have been maybe a similar character to Charlie Hunnam's character, but maybe he just goes down a different route. I don't know, but it just felt like something was missing with that. And because I feel like the Australian guys, certainly the younger guy, was very much just a rival and just kind of getting in the way. And obviously the father of the Australian father is more sympathetic towards Charlie Dunham, Riley. I don't think like an extra character would have gotten in the way too much, but it's difficult. It's a difficult balancing act. So, like, I think the film definitely works as a whole, but I feel like they could have, as you kind of say, they should have cut it down a little bit for me. Like, I think overall, I don't like complaining about run times, but I think with that will she, won't she get in there, it does drag it down a little bit, even though the little scenes that they use do work really well. I think it's just a little too much, because it's a given, frankly, that she's going to end up, Riley's partner in Gypsy Danger. So it's just weird as well. Like, you go through this training sequence where they're using these sticks fighting each other, but they're like, oh, you got to go through the candidate training program, but we don't see anyone really. There are no candidates. Where are they?
It's that one scene.
They're just in the background.
It's that one scene where he fights a bunch of them and then calls out Mako to fight him, and that's about it.
Yeah, so that was slightly disappointing. Charlie Day's storyline with like finding the kaiju brain and drifting, again, I feel like drags the film down a little bit, because it feels like it's inevitability that he's going to find one. Yeah, what did you make of that storyline?
So I think it was more to build something up for a later date. And I think it's more of, I think it was just show, don't tell type situations. Like, just show me what he's doing. It's like, you don't have to constantly explain to me what is happening with him and what he is trying to do. But yeah, the fact that he has to find a brain, and then we get Hannibal Chow played by Ron Perlman, and his whole situation. And then, I think it does drag. I definitely think that whole section could have been trimmed down. I think the whole baby thing, like, oh, it's pregnant, and then that's where he gets the live brain, because the other one was dead or whatever. Charlie Day, though, I do like his performance. I think it's so out of control, but like it fits for the situation that they're in. Like you're thinking about this world that is being run by kaijus, and you have these giant robots killing these kaijus to prevent the end of the world. Like I feel like you'd be a little nuts.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And as a scientist trying to help prevent this situation, I think Charlie Day and Bern Gorman, who plays the other scientist, I think they play very well off each other because they're two completely opposite types of scientists. Charlie Day is more of the I'm just going to go for it type of guy, where Bern Gorman is the I need to
crazy
do a little
scientist.
bit more testing. I need to do some more testing. I need to figure this out before I even jump into it. And then by the end, they're both kind of in it together. But yeah, I think that whole him and Hannibal Chow was a little much. And I think Hannibal Chow is, as much as, you know, I love Ron Perlman, and I know that Del Toro loves him too, since he's almost in every movie he does. I don't know if he really needed to be in this movie.
Yeah, same. Like, I gotta show off my friend.
Yeah.
He looks awesome in this. Look at him.
Look at those shoes.
Look at those steampunk sunglasses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, my biggest complaint.
I guess Ron Perlman just called Del Toro up and said, I hear you're making a monster kaiju film. I want to get eaten by one, please. I want to get eaten by a baby kaiju. And it definitely reminded me of Samuel L. Jackson's death in Deep Blue Sea.
Yes.
The way that was done.
Yes, 100%.
That was great. That came straight to my mind when he died. Funny, interesting lines. There's quite a few for me when, like, you see Charlie Day arrive and Herman, and Charlie Day's like, Herman, these are human beings. Why don't you say hello?
I think pretty much anything that Charlie Day says in this movie is pretty funny.
Yeah, not everything, I don't think. I think one is pretty cringe for me, where Charlie Day says, fortune favors the brave. You heard them, they won't give you the equipment, and even if they did, you'd kill yourself. And then he's like, well, I'd be a rock star. And I was like, oh no, that did not come off well, dude. Why did you say that? That was bad, in my opinion.
Yeah. As you say it, I'm like, yeah. That was probably a throwaway line for me. I heard it and probably just, okay, move on.
He's a smart kid, but I never knew whether to give him a hug or a kick in the ass. With respect, sir, I'm pretty sure which one he needs.
That is a good one.
Riley to the Australian dad. One weird but funny one when Charlie Day arrives at Hannibal Chow's, I don't know, apartment, I guess, and this guy says, some bone powder? No, why would I want that? Male potency, I take it myself. Bit weird, but it's funny. But I think the obvious one, and certainly my favorite, and the one I always remember from this film is the speech from Idris Elba, and he ends by saying, today we are cancelling the apocalypse.
It's today is our Independence Day.
Yeah.
It's that exact freaking speech.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Have you got a favorite yourself?
I really like when Riley gets angry at Idris Elba's character, and he goes up and he grabs him.
Right.
And he turns around and he's just like, 1, don't touch me. 2, don't touch me.
That is great. Yeah.
I always thought that was funny. I think, was it whoever Herc Henson is? I really like this line. He says, now you and I are the only thing standing between the ugly bastard and a city of 2 million people. Now we have a choice here. We either sit and wait, or we take those flare guns and do something really stupid. Yeah,
I never really understood that. I was just like, why are you getting out? I know the Jaeger is busted. It won't work. The kaiju does this kind of like organic EMP on them, but I don't understand why they fire a flare at the kaiju. I was like, I granted they acknowledge it that it is stupid, but why? I don't understand. Are you trying to kill yourselves by firing a flare right in the eye of a kaiju?
It reminds me, I mean, we get this scene later in Kong Skull Island, where at the end of the movie, Kong is fighting the the big one, as they call it, the massive skull crawler, and Brie Larson climbs up to the peak of this mountain and shoots a flare gun perfectly into the eye of the skull crawler, and then gets knocked off the mountain. I went, for one, the accuracy on that flare gun
is awesome.
Damn. Where is that flare gun when you need it? Oh man, I do love, my last one is probably going to be when, after Charlie Day bridges with the kaiju and he's like convulsing, bleeding from the nose, and the Gottlieb, I think is his name, the other scientist, comes in. He's just like, Marshall, I need to talk to you. He's like, not now. I'm sure you can appreciate how important this moment is to me. He's like, Newton created a neural bridge from garbage and drifted with a kaiju.
He's like, you bastard, he's done it, but you need to come now. Screenplay score then for me, I think this definitely is the weakest element of the film by not a massive distance, but there is a distance, I think. So I'll go, I just have a problem with the film drags a bit. You know, it's 2 hours and I feel like you could shave off a lot of scenes here and this film could be way better. So I would go like a 7.4 for me. How about you, sir?
So it's tough because, as I said, the character, I think now that you mentioned some of these things, I'm kind of like,
I'm sorry, dude,
reconsidering my score. I'm going to give it an 8. Okay. I'm going to give it a generous 8. I do agree with a lot of the issues that you had with the Mako kind of integration into the story. Charlie Day's character interacting with Hannibal Chow definitely could have been just eliminated. I think we could have just had Charlie Day kind of going and finding another brain in a different fashion. So, but it's still, I think, a pretty well crafted script with, there's some things that could have been shaved off. I think we didn't need to hang out with Riley at his new job after the first fight, like at where they're building the wall. Like we had to see way too much of that. Yeah. Like there's a whole scene where he's like they're like standing in the group and the guy's got the 2 cards, like, oh, yesterday we lost 2 people, so we have 2 cards. And it's like, we didn't need any of that because it goes nowhere. It just doesn't go anywhere other than Idris Elba showing up and being like, hey, you want to come back to the Jaeger program?
Yeah, the whole wall idea felt kind of stupid anyway, to be honest. I'm like, really? Like, I suspect they can jump high.
And also,
it's weird.
These are pretty powerful creatures. Like they're huge. They're like 150 foot tall. Like you're telling me they can't crash through some concrete? Like, come on. Yeah. Like, what do we talk? This is the whole thing. Is they see it on the TV and they're like, he just walked through that so easily. Like,
what are we doing here? At least they kind of. But I do like the fact that they do acknowledge that it is kind of a stupid idea, and it goes against. It makes the government of this world, feel stupid. Similar in some ways to government in The Host as well. So
in the government in real life.
Yes. Of course. So but they don't really play on that very much. I mean, it's just used as setup, really. That the government have kind of shut down practically shut down the Jaeger program, and all the Jaegers have just been ordered to go to Hong Kong, and they're going to focus on the Wall of Life, they call it, that program now. But with the government propaganda stuff, that's just really used as setup. Acting, then, Charlie Hunnam is a pretty bland actor, to be honest. I mean, but the fight scene with him and Rinko Kikuchi, who plays Mako Mori, it's super slick, as you would expect, but like nothing too impressive for me. And also just like the chemistry between those two, I really wasn't feeling it at all.
It's very forced.
Yeah, it does feel very forced from both of them, to be honest. I don't really know what people see in this guy. I mean, I don't watch Sons of Anarchy. I suspect he's really great in that, but yeah, I feel like they could have recast and really elevated this film.
Yeah, I have a very strong feeling that Ron Perlman had something to do with Charlie Hunnam's casting in this movie, because Ron Perlman was in Sons of Anarchy.
Okay.
Ron Perlman is very much a Del Toro regular, so maybe it was kind of like, hey, Sons of Anarchy is ending. Let's get you on the big screen. Let's get you into some movies. Because I don't think Charlie Hunnam was very well known as an actor in movies.
No.
Because I think he's Australian, or is he English?
I don't know. I mean, he's one of these actors where his accent goes all over the place. So I don't know, man. I got to look that up.
But yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. He is possibly the most just boring characters. His line deliveries are just so forced.
Yeah.
You're just like, you're the main character, and I feel like I'm supposed to connect with you, and I just don't at all. At all.
Yeah.
I connect more with every side character more than I ever will with Charlie Hunnam. And then the thing is it's not just this movie, because I've seen other movies with him and it doesn't get any better. Have you ever seen Crimson Peak, which is another Del Toro? Not that great in that either.
No. Great film. I think it's very underappreciated, but yeah, thankfully he has a very small role in that.
Yeah, he is not the lead in that one. So, but oh man, yeah, I feel our scores are going to be pretty low on the acting part of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Day as Dr. Newton Geisler is a little irritating throughout this film. Like, he's passable, he's fine, but like,
he's Charlie Day being Charlie Day.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, a lot of the time, I feel like I can see it written on his face, written on like Idris Elba's face, saying like, "Why do I have to act with this guy?" But there's a scene where he's just like completed like a neural drift with a kaiju brain, and he's all like shook up and shaken trying to like explain what he's just seen, and he looks genuinely freaked out and scared in some moments. So, you know, that scene definitely worked for him and worked for me as well. So, you know, that was definitely his best one for me. I just feel like he just pushes that line too much of just being too much.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this is also like Charlie Day wasn't doing movies much either.
Yeah,
because he was more well known for doing It's Always Sunny.
Right. Does he do stand up as well? Or?
I don't think so.
Okay,
but I mean, I don't watch a lot of stand up anymore.
Right.
I don't think he might. It could have been, but I know that his primary role was on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So this was kind of like his, I think maybe his like big break into films. I don't remember.
Right.
This is 2013, so this is 11 years ago, and I know It's Always Sunny is like almost 20 years into this damn show, but I feel he was trying to figure out himself. I think he was trying to figure out like how he was going to perform in movies, and he knew what was his comfort zone, which is just being himself, and being kind of that over the top character, which is exactly who he is in It's Always Sunny.
Right,
so I can't fault him 100%. Yes, there are moments where he is just batshit crazy and you're just kind of thrown off. You're like, dude, relax, like chill out, take a breath. And then, the scene where he bridges with the kaiju and kind of comes out of it all freaked out and stuff. I think that was really well done. So he has his good moments, and then he has his just shut the hell up moments.
I was just like, what the hell did he say? You're talking too fast.
Yeah.
But I really liked Idris Elba in this. He's by far the best thing in this for me. As this like brooding military guy, Stacker Pentecost, really great name,
right?
Yeah, and he's pretty much in full Luther mode. A great British TV show. I love the scene where Charlie Hunnam says that he saw all of what happened in Marco's memories, and he like runs after him and grabs Idris Elba's arm, and Idris is like. Leaves his arm out for a moment and slowly looks up at Charlie Hunnam like, excuse me, what did you just do? And he doesn't really change his expression much, but all of a sudden you feel like Idris Elba could fuck him up in any moment.
Yeah, because that's that line where he's like, okay, I got 3 things. 1, don't touch me. 2, don't touch me. Like that whole situation. It's so good.
That's great. Yeah, he definitely elevates this on an emotional level, and he's by far the best thing in this. Yeah,
I mean, you can't go wrong with Idris Elba. I mean, he's so fun, even in some movies that people would consider bad. He really elevates it to a different degree. I think I don't know if have you seen the movie Beast that he did last year, the one with the lions. So that movie's, it's not great. It's kind of your typical creature feature type thing based on, an actual animal. I mean, it kind of plays in the same ballpark as like Anaconda or Lake Placid or something like that. But I think his physical performance in that and the way that he plays alongside these two young girls who play his daughters, I think he does really well. It just shows how well of an actor he is. I mean, he was in The Office, for crying out loud, for a bit, like playing alongside some very comedic, like highly comedic actors, Steve Carell, and for him to go in there and play kind of the straight edge kind of guy who doesn't take no shit, or he knows what he knows his assignment, and he gets that assignment and he plays it out so well. I mean, he's Knuckles, for crying out loud, in the Sonic movies. I mean, and he's getting his own show. So I mean, this guy can do anything. He really can.
He's very much the tough guy and the leader of this of the Jaeger program, but like towards the end you can really feel the softer side come through, where he when you discover that he is dying and that he's basically sacrificing himself when he goes into Striker, the Australian Jaeger, and you can really see that on his face that this is a tough moment for this character. So really great. So he's my favorite performance. Is Big Driss yours as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he definitely just. I mean, when you're comparing him to Charlie the Boring Hunnam,
no contest.
It's not even close.
So acting score for me, I think I'll stay in the 7s. Because I think Idris Elba does elevate it as much as he can. Whereas, like, the other scientist guy, I can't remember his name. I really like that energy that he gave that character, this kind of crazy scientist vibe.
Gottlieb, I think, is his name.
He's really great.
Vern Gordon is another one who is a very underrated actor. He is able to do anything. Like, this was actually one of the first movies I had ever seen him in, and he's been in a lot of stuff since then. And like he really takes his assignment very seriously and can really do anything.
Yeah, so I'll go like a 7.6 for me.
Okay.
How about you, sir?
I'm going to go a little lower. Okay. To be honest, I was going to go 6.5. Okay. Because I looking back, I'm like, Charlie Hunnam really brings it down. Yeah. Especially since he is the main character. And I do like the actress who plays Mako, but there are some moments, especially with Riley, that it's just like kind of like, oh God, am I watching a soap opera right now? Like it's just weird.
Get back to the monsters.
Yeah, exactly. It does get to that moment in time, but Idris Elba, he really elevates. I do like Charlie Day's performance, even though it is a little wacko crazy, but I feel like he plays very well with the other guy, with Vern Gordon's character. I think they're very polar opposites, and I think that's fun. Their little camaraderie with each other.
I think for me, like if Idris Elba wasn't in this would be a really low score for me.
Yeah,
he's that good,
Right. Even characters who didn't need to be in this movie, like I like Ron Perlman, and I thought he was fine for what he was given. He was over the top, just goofy, and I love how he got his name. As like his actual name isn't Hannibal Chow. He's Hannibal Chow because Hannibal is from his favorite fictional character, which means Hannibal Lecter, and then Chow was like his favorite Szechuan restaurant or something like that. Yeah,
that was funny.
I thought that was funny. I'll put it in the 7s too, but it's going to be a little lower. I'm probably going to put like a 7.2.
Sure.
Kind of rewatching this again, because I've always been an advocate for this movie. I've always stood up for this movie, and I know a lot of people don't like it because of Charlie Hunnam's performance, and maybe other performances as well. But I've always seen Charlie Hunnam's performance as being weak, but it's other aspects of the movie that keeps me enjoying it and really going back to it. But rewatching it, I definitely saw a lot of weaker performances alongside Hunnam's, where I'm like, oof, especially anybody who has to perform with him. And I think when you have to perform alongside somebody who is not giving a very good performance, it kind of brings the performance of the other actor down. The only one who didn't fall to that was Idris Elba.
Yeah. He's like, no one's bringing me down.
No, I'm the best here.
Right, let's add up the scores then for Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim gets 46.7. So the host wins this one pretty comfortably with 53.6. Yay, I win an episode. Yay. I got a point on the board, people. It brings my score to like 2, I think. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Next episode, as Challengers is out in the cinemas, the new Luca Guadagnino film. So we are naturally talking Luca Guadagnino films, and we'll have a guest for that one as well from the Fake Out Instagram account. So not actually a podcast, a really great reviewer on Instagram. So that should be a lot of fun. Parker, you have been amazing. This is your opportunity again to talk about your podcast, and where can we find you, sir?
So again, I am Brett Parker. I am one of 3 hosts of the Dissect That Film podcast, or just Dissect That Film. We are I don't like to call ourselves a movie review podcast. Yeah. We're a movie plot breakdown podcast, I guess I'd like to say, where we pretty much go through the entire plot of a movie, good, bad, or ugly, and we talk about it, we joke about it, we have fun with it, and we also do other things, such as we talk about like new release movies. Sometimes we do TV reviews, very rare, but yeah, you can find us. Speaking of, I do it with my wonderful co-host Dan and Angela. I always got to shout them out since they aren't able to come on a lot of guest spots. So you can find us on all the podcast apps. You can also find us on YouTube if you want to watch the video versions of our podcasts. We are also on Patreon, where speaking of monster movies, I figured I'd shout it out because we do have a Patreon exclusive series called The Monster Zone, where we actually talk about monster movies. And the movie for April is the movie that was mentioned either in the beginning of this episode or the last episode, What Came from Beneath the Deep, or whatever the heck it's called, the one that you mentioned.
It Came from Beneath the Sea. There you go.
That's it. That's the movie we're covering for April. So if you want to hang out with us over there, it's patreon.com/dissect that film. As for social media, we're on all the social media apps. If you type in Dissect That Film on any of them, you're probably going to find us there. So yeah, there it is.
Excellent. And now I've realized I've been calling you Parker this whole time when your first name is Brett. Oh well.
That's okay. That's why I put Parker there. That's why I put it on the screen, because that's what most people call me. So it's okay. That's just how I introduce myself. Okay. Most people, you can call me whatever you want.
That's all right. It is time to say goodbye, people. I know it's very sad. Right. It's goodbye from Parker. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. So long.
That's probably the best goodbye I've had for a while. Excellent. No pauses there. Very good. And now it's goodbye from me. Frankly, I'm never going to eat seafood again. Bye-bye. That's it for part 2. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 1 if you haven't done so already. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell me what your favorite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for X at FVF_podcast. Plus, we are now on YouTube, so hit that like button and comment there. If you do, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.